Welcome back. This is part 2 of our Q&A session from the presentation that we just finished, The Flowers of Immortality, Exploring the Body's Inner Landscape of Chakras, Deities, and Cosmological Powers. And I'm continuing down the list here of so many really good questions that came in that we didn't have time to answer, and thank you for that. So here's another question. When we place our hands directly over the chakras, what is it possible to feel in terms of sensations? Well, this is not really something that most people are going to feel in terms of, can you feel your chakras? The answer I will give is yes, you can feel your chakras in meditation more easily. Can you feel them physically? Not in ordinary consciousness. Now, some people may disagree because they have some training in doing Reiki, pranic healing, Qigong healing, things like that. And people who do this develop a high level of energetic sensitivity to the chi in their hands. And that gives people a high level of sensitivity to the chi or the prana that is being emanated by a person. Now, under those circumstances, the sensations will be picked up by different people at different levels, and they may interpret it in different ways. But I think what's most important is not to say, yes, you can feel it, or no, you can't. I think what's most important is to say, what's the phenomena? Let's turn this into a question and study it. What is the phenomena, actually? Do the chakras give off emanations that can be felt? Well, I would say that a good starting point to examine this would be something like an electrocardiogram, where you have sensors that are put on the body, and they're actually picking up something that is a frequency. But we can't feel that frequency. We can't do an electrocardiogram just using our hands, you see. So automatically, what we learn is that there's different kinds of frequencies, and there are different levels of perceiving them. So an electrode is going to perceive one level of bioelectrical current. All right, and it's going to show up on a screen, and it's going to show, all right, this is actually the representation of the bioelectrical current in the heart pulsating. Now, can an ordinary person feel that, putting their hands over, the chest of a patient? No. Can the patient feel it? No. So it's a frequency that cannot be felt. Now, what people can feel is that the first thing that people can perceive is that they will feel differences in temperature over the body, and that indicates differences of activity, and that may be related to some kind of chakra activity. But medically speaking, that may show us areas of cold or heat, where there may be some hyper or hypoactivity physiologically. So there's a number of ways that we could describe it, and it has to do with what is the phenomena, what's happening physically, and how can it be perceived. Now, the other way to look at this is what happens when we meditate in the prana body and we start doing this creation of the chakras to actually bring the prana of attention into the prana body and to do the practices according to the classical systems, which is not there's a chakra there. The classical systems were much more like, okay, now we will create a chakra inside a particular part of the body for a particular function. The chakra is going to look like this, and it is going to do that, and we're going to use this part of the body as the inner temple, as the inner space for doing meditation practice, and we're going to do it according to these particular visualizations and these mantras and this breathing technique or this energy circulating technique and so forth. Now, that's where people can really feel their chakras, okay? But it's a subjective internal experience. It's not so much like we're feeling things on the outside of the body. So if you really want to feel your chakras becoming active, then really hold your attention in a part of the body. Now, this is really simple. It's the basis of biofeedback. And that is, all we have to do is put our attention on any part of the body. Just hold your hand out, put your attention on your hand. And within a very short period of time, you're going to start to notice that, oh, my hand is tingling. I'm getting some improved circulation. And if you do it long enough, you can actually change the blood flow in your hand and the nerve current response in your hand. And that's a miracle, if we think about it, because nothing has happened physically. All we have done is we just used our mind to change our physiology. Therefore, if we're using our mind to change our physiology, let's say we're doing a heart-centered chakra practice, we're using our mind, we're using our attention, as we did in the discussion. We are focusing in the heart, and that is sending energy physically. And then that is starting to have measurable kinds of effects. We could affect our electrocardiogram that way with our attention, with our mind. And the subjective experiences will start to develop. And they will develop so strongly that if we become really advanced in some of these practices, like the Tumo Yogi image that I showed, we can actually learn how to regulate our body temperature, which is being done now by more and more people who are, doing methods both classical and modern, being propagated by people like Wim Hof, who are teaching people how to actually just, sit in ice water and be warm. We can affect our metabolism directly with practice. All right, so that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. And let's talk about, okay, a very good question here. Very profound subject, links us back to both classical and contemporary use. Can you speak about what happens to the chakras when two lovers come together in sexual union? And what happens when there is love and respect versus sex with someone sans love, without love? Thank you for your wisdom. All right, now this tells us a lot. This topic informs us about a lot of different things. And I will mention first that in all of the classical meditation traditions, that there has always been lineages that talk about how to incorporate sexuality into meditation practice. And I would say that this is maybe one of the most misunderstood aspects of Asian spirituality that has come to the West. So if we use the word tantra, tantra has been strongly connected to the sexual practices, okay, of meditating during lovemaking, breath control, visualization during lovemaking. And even though that was a part of classical Hindu tantric practice, the term tantra is not about sex at all. Tantra means transformation. And so what they were referring to is transforming everything, using our sexual desire to transcend our sexual desire, to transform it into love, to transform it into awareness. And so therefore, we can find in all these lineages that there are specific practices. As a matter of fact, in Taoism, there's a huge number of meditation practices that are classified in the category known as the bedroom arts. And so the bedroom arts are both for lay people and for meditators. And for lay people, what it means is it's basically sex education. And the Chinese were really big on sex education for obvious reasons. It's healthy. You want to know how to have a healthy intimacy with your partner. And that's good for the relationship. And there was also a lot of emphasis on the health benefits. Okay, when the man should be more concerned about conservation of the Jing, or when the woman should be more concerned about um, when and how much, or when both partners should be concerned about when and how much, and the context of the emotions and the context of the spiritual connection. And so this was a very big part of Taoist culture as well. And then from that came all of these practices of how to cultivate intimacy very deeply by integrating meditation into lovemaking. And it also touches on the term that we talked about quite a bit, actually, Yi Dao, Qi Dao, where the mind goes, the prana and the qi go. And therefore, this is a way to meditate together, to bring the breath, harmonize the heartbeats, harmonize the circulation, and harmonize the visualization. And so it transforms lovemaking into a mutual kind of practice. Now, the question is, does it happen? Does it affect the chakras? Well, of course. And it affects the chakras in both of the systems. It affects the chakras in terms of the contemporary biopsychology, and it affects the chakras in terms of the classical system. So therefore, if we look at it from the standpoint of contemporary biopsychology, what we see is that the first chakra, the second chakra, the third chakra, basically all the chakras are involved in lovemaking, but it might be attributed more to the second chakra. And what we find is the second chakra, first chakra are frequently associated with the issues of sexuality. And therefore, healthy lovemaking could be said to be very healing for the first and second chakras. So that's a very brief overview. That's a vast subject, actually, because it goes into so many different practices. It goes into our sexual health. It goes into biopsychology. And it also takes us into these various practices that were done, these various yogic practices of what do you actually do with the chakras in lovemaking. So that's a vast subject. And I think that this is very important to understand because it shows us so many things about how the mind and the attention and the prana are all linked. And really the most important thing with all of this, and this is actually stated very clearly in a lot of these traditions, this is something that is very problematic emotionally for most people as well, because it requires a high level of emotional and spiritual maturity to do this, and yogic control, especially on the part of the male, on the part of the man. And especially in Taoism, there was an incredible emphasis that was placed on being able to cultivate retention of the semen during sexual excitement, okay? And there was a lot of debate. Is that actually a healthy thing to do? And this discussion goes back, 1,500, 2,000 years. And people were saying, yeah, it's a good thing to do. And now it doesn't make any difference at all. It's not healthy. It just creates stagnation. And so it's a complicated topic, but exploring the topic is what is important. It's not that we will find any easy answers. We'll find all kinds of answers, and that's where we learn. All right, so that's another segment of questions and answers from our presentation on the flowers of immortality. I hope that you found that interesting, and it also answered a number of the other questions that came in. And I would also like to mention that this is a big topic, actually, that we're going to be covering in more detail in the Illuminated Chakras course, especially when we are talking about the modules on the first and second chakra. And of course, the fourth chakra, the heart chakra, which is the most important in all of this. And really, we could conclude this question about sexuality with a nice statement that when the heart chakra opens, all the other chakras fall in. All right. So we'll conclude here with part 2, and then we'll do another one and see you there.